You are being watched. Something very serious is happening, and you only have 21 minutes to understand it before it's too late. There is something going on behind the scenes, something invisible, yet real. You can feel it, but you can't fully see it yet. God has already seen it. He already knows. And now, He is warning you. Pay close attention. Nothing in your life is happening by chance. Sudden changes, unexpected betrayals, closed doors. This is not a coincidence. This is a sign. There is a war happening in the spiritual world, and your name is at the center of this battle. The problem? If you don't understand what is happening now, the consequences could be irreversible. The enemy wants you to ignore this warning. He wants you to keep living as if nothing is happening. But stop and think, why are you here, hearing this message at this exact moment? Do you think this is an accident? There is no such thing as coincidence when God is in control. The question is, will you ignore this call and continue to be blind to what is happening around you? Or will you open your eyes and understand what God is trying to show you before time runs out? Because after the next 21 minutes, nothing will be the same. Something is happening right now, and you cannot ignore it. 2 angels have been sent directly from heaven with an urgent message. But only a few will understand. Only a few will realize that a silent scheme is unfolding in the shadows, trying to pull the rug out from under those who are not paying attention. But here's the truth, God has already seen it all. And He brought you here because you need to know this before it's too late. The game is being played against you. People who pretend to support you, who pat you on the back, who praise you, but secretly, they are plotting your downfall. Don't be fooled, not every smile is sincere, and not every handshake means friendship. Judas also kissed Jesus before betraying Him. Now think, who is around you today? Who might be plotting while pretending to be an ally? And here's a hidden detail, your actions are being scrutinized behind the scenes. People who never truly supported you are just waiting for one mistake to attack. They are manipulating, distorting, spreading lies, trying to turn others against you. And believe this, their goal is to isolate you, weaken you, and make you doubt yourself. But listen, God will not let this happen. And that is why He is warning you now. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is real. There is a war happening, and you are in the middle of it. People are being used without even realizing it. Deceptive spirits are circulating, spreading confusion, influencing minds, and stirring up conflicts to attack those whom God has chosen. And do you know what their most dangerous weapon is? A lie disguised as truth. The coincidence, the gossip, the poisoned words that make others question who you are. But here's the secret, the game is already turning. Because God exposes the enemy's plans before the final blow. He removes the masks, reveals hidden intentions, and prevents the enemy's plan from succeeding. And when God reveals the truth, there is no way to hide. Those who were manipulated will begin to see clearly. The truth will emerge. And those who plotted against you, they will fall into their own trap. Now listen carefully, God brought you here because time is running out. You cannot ignore the signs anymore. You have 21 minutes to understand this and make a decision. What will you do with this information? Will you keep believing everything is just random? Or will you wake up before it's too late? Have you ever stopped to think that nothing escapes God's eyes? While you sleep, He sees. While you trust, He watches. While you walk unworried, He already knows who the false allies around you are. The problem? They don't show their true intentions. They pretend, they smile, they play nice. But God has already seen their hearts. And today, He wants you to see it too. There is a dangerous strategy being formed against you. And what makes it so terrifying? It's happening in subtle ways. That person who always has a compliment for you, but behind your back spreads doubts about you. That one who seems to cheer for your success but secretly hopes for your downfall. God has already heard the conversations you haven't. He has already seen the plans that have been made against you. And today, He wants to warn you. What many don't understand is that God doesn't just see everything, He reveals everything at the right time. And when He starts exposing the truth, nothing can remain hidden. Those who thought they were safe in their lies will be unmasked. Small slip-ups, contradictions, strange looks. The signs are already appearing. And God is opening your eyes before it's too late. Here's a reality check: you've been deceived and didn't even realize it. People came close to you with hidden motives, pretended friendship, formed false connections. But God, in His infinite wisdom, is cutting the ties before they become chains. Sometimes, what looks like a loss is actually a deliverance. Stop holding on to connections that God has already told you to let go of. Do you want proof that this is real? Look at how many people have disappeared from your life recently. Look at how many doors God has closed, how many alliances have been broken. This was not random. This was Him protecting you from a disaster you haven't even seen yet. But now comes the real question: will you trust God, or will you insist on keeping around the people He has already exposed? God sees what you do not see. And He has already decided to act. But there's one thing you must understand: when He reveals, you must believe. Many make the mistake of doubting the signs and holding on to what is already tainted. Time is passing. The revelations are coming. There is a conversation happening right now. Your name is being mentioned. People who smile in front of you are spreading stories behind your back. But what they don't know is that God has already seen everything. Yes, He was there. At the exact moment when they plotted to ruin your reputation, He already knew. And now, He wants you to know too. The enemy's strategy is ancient. He doesn't attack directly, he manipulates narratives. He takes truths, twists them, spreads half-truths, and before you realize it, people start seeing you differently. Have you felt this? That place where you once felt at peace now feels heavy. Friendships that were once solid now feel distant. This is not coincidence. This is strategy. The enemy always uses the same tactic: discredit you before attacking you. If he can make people doubt your integrity, he weakens your purpose. If he can isolate you, he makes you vulnerable. But here's the good news: God is already moving to undo these lies. What was spoken in secret will be exposed in public. Those who plotted against you will fall into their own trap. And here's something few understand: sometimes, God's silence is a strategy. Maybe you are waiting for an answer, for a defense from heaven, but God does not act in human time. He allows lies to circulate until they are big enough to be crushed once and for all. And when He moves, nothing remains of the enemy's schemes. Want a biblical example? Joseph was a victim of this same strategy. His brothers spread a false narrative about him, made their own father believe in lies, threw him into a pit, and sold him as a slave. It seemed like the end, but it was just the beginning. What they didn't know was that God already had a greater plan. And that same God is orchestrating something in your life right now. Malicious tongues are active, but God has already written the outcome. The voices that try to discredit you will be silenced. Those who conspire against you today will witness your rise. But now comes the most important part: you need to be prepared for what will happen next. Because the war is not over yet, and the next attack is already underway. What have you been feeling lately? Fatigue? Confusion? An inexplicable pressure? Know that this is not just emotional or psychological. This is war. And the worst part? It has already begun, and you might be in the middle of it without even realizing it. The enemy doesn't just want you to fall, he wants you to doubt yourself. He uses people, situations, and even your own thoughts against you. But God has already revealed this strategy. Notice how things around you have started to change in strange ways. Those who were close are now distant. Opportunities that seemed certain have been blocked. The joy that once came naturally now feels like a distant memory. This is the work of darkness. They want to isolate you, weaken you, make you feel alone. Because an isolated soldier is easier to break. But listen carefully, you are not alone. The enemy's greatest trick is making you believe that the problem is within you. He spreads lies, manipulates perceptions, distorts realities. He makes you feel guilty for things you haven't done. He convinces you that no one understands you. But God has already warned you, nothing that has been planned against you will prosper. The attack is real, but divine protection is greater. This war is not fought with words or arguments. It is fought in the spirit. And if you try to fight alone, you will lose. That's why you need the armor of God. Fill yourself with the word, strengthen your faith, shield your mind against the confusion the enemy wants to place in it. Because in the end, this battle is not just against you, it's against the purpose God has for your life. Want an example? Look at Jesus. The attack against him began in the spiritual realm long before it manifested on earth. The enemy tried to discredit him, isolate him, and break him. But he stood firm. And what happened? The victory was his. And now, that same strength is being poured upon you. But you must decide, will you fight, or will you let yourself be carried away by what they are trying to do to you? The lies will be undone. The attacks will be frustrated. But there is one last piece in this game that you haven't seen yet. Something that God is about to expose that will change everything. The battle is not over. The enemy is desperate. And now he will try everything to prevent what is destined to happen. There is an evil plan against you, and it has already been set in motion. People pretending to be allies, fake smiles, secret conversations. But there's something these traitors forgot: God saw everything. Every word spoken, every secret meeting, every trap set, everything has already been exposed before him. And now he is taking action. Do you know what's most shocking? Those who plotted against you think they are in control. They believe their plan is working, that the lies they spread are taking hold, that the confusion they caused is affecting you. But it's not. Because God has already decided that this will not come to pass. He is frustrating their plans before they even reach the end. Do you need a reality check? Remember Haman. The man who planned to destroy God's people ended up being hanged by the very gallows he built. And now, look at what is happening around you. The people who schemed against you are already beginning to stumble in their own game. The lies they spread are turning against them. The net they wove to trap you will be the snare that captures them instead. Now listen carefully. While you were sleeping, God was already working behind the scenes. While you were worrying, he was already closing the wrong doors. While your enemies were scheming, he was already preparing your turnaround. And do you know what's most impressive? They haven't even realized yet that they've already lost. But there's something you need to understand: the time for exposure has come. The masks will fall. The false allies will be revealed. And those who laughed at your pain will be forced to witness your ascension. But what comes next is even greater than you imagine. Get ready. Something huge is about to happen, and you need to be ready. God has already decreed, the lies that were thrown against you will be exposed. The deceivers will lose their influence. And those who laughed at your failure will be forced to witness your victory. Divine justice is in motion, and no one can stop what is coming. Do you know what terrifies your enemies the most? They thought they would get away with it. They trusted the narrative they built, the manipulation they spread. They believed they would never be discovered. But God has a way of exposing things that no one ever imagined. When he decides to reveal, there is no hole deep enough to hide in. And the moment of revelation is coming. The time of impunity is over. Have you noticed the signs? People who once had control are beginning to lose their grip. Situations that used to oppress you have started to shift unexpectedly. The doors that were closed are starting to open. This is not a coincidence. This is God turning the tables. He is taking what was meant to harm you and transforming it into fuel for your ascension. And here's the most powerful detail: the victory that God is bringing will not be silent. It will be big. It will be public. The same ones who wanted to shame you will be forced to watch you shine. They wanted to bury your name, but God is breathing life into your story. Those who thought you were finished have seen nothing yet. Now, listen closely. What is about to happen will silence many voices. The mask still standing will fall once and for all. God will not only restore your honor, He will elevate you to a level that none of your enemies expected. But for this to happen, there is something you must do. Because the battle is not over yet. What was spoken against you will fall to the ground. God has already decreed, the truth will prevail. The false narratives, the distortions, the slanders, none of them will survive what God is about to do. The enemy used words as weapons to weaken you, but now those same words, they will turn against him. The time of deception is over. Here's what his opponents didn't expect: God doesn't just undo the lie, He turns it into a stage for the truth to shine. What was used to discredit you will be exactly what exalts you. Have you noticed that every lie, sooner or later, contradicts itself? That's what's happening now. Small slips, stories that don't add up, nervous glances. The truth is already pushing the lie into the abyss. The enemy's strategy has always been the same: sowing doubt, planting confusion, and discrediting those chosen by God. But do you know what sets the chosen ones apart? They don't depend on human approval, they depend on God. And those who stand firm in the truth are unshakable. Jesus was attacked, accused, and humiliated, but in the end, who was exalted? Jesus himself. Now pay attention. The truth not only sets you free, but it also destroys everything that was built on lies. Those who tried to deceive you will be discredited. Those who tried to bring you down will stumble. Those who judged you without knowing the truth will realize they were wrong. And in the end, you will stand firm because your identity has never depended on what others think, but on what God has already declared about you. But here's the detail: the enemy will still try one last move. He is desperate. He knows the truth is coming to light, and there's nothing more he can do. But he still has one last attack, and you need to be prepared. The enemy has already realized he has lost, but he has one final card to play, trying to weaken you emotionally. After everything that has happened, after so many disappointments, you may be feeling tired, unmotivated, even questioning whether it's worth continuing. But listen, now is the time to stay strong. The worst is over, and your victory is closer than ever. Do you know the biggest mistake many people make? They give up when they're just one step away from the promise. The enemy knows this. He wants you to believe that nothing will change, that you are alone, that fighting is pointless. But that's a lie. You didn't go through all this for nothing. God is preparing something far greater than you can imagine. The problem is that when we are wounded, we start to doubt. What if nothing changes? What if I'm alone in this? What if God doesn't act? Listen. The "what if" is a trap. You don't need proof to trust. If God has brought you this far, He won't leave you now. He has never lost a battle, and it will be no different with you. Now, a serious warning: some people will try to hold you back. They will try to make you doubt. The enemy will use words to plant uncertainty in your mind. But you cannot let this shake you. That's why now is the time to surround yourself with the right people. Who strengthens you? Who pushes you forward? Because at this moment, you need to be with those who truly want your best. Now, pay attention. The devil has already realized he can't bring you down, so he will try to distract you. He will try to bring distractions, the wrong people, deceptive offers. But God is saying, stay firm. Don't fall into the trap of trading something great and eternal for a temporary break. The reward is coming, but you need to endure until the end. And there's something even more powerful that you need to do now. Something that will completely change the course of the battle. The enemy doesn't just want to hurt you, he wants you to carry the pain. He knows that as long as you're trapped in resentment, he still has an open door in your life. But today, God is giving you a powerful secret to break this chain: prayer and forgiveness. This is not about those who hurt you, this is about you being free. The biggest mistake the devil wants you to make is holding on to resentment. He knows that if he can keep you trapped in pain, he will stop you from moving forward. But today, God is saying, let go. Not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiving doesn't mean saying that what happened was right, it means deciding that it will no longer control you. But what if the pain is too great? What if the betrayal is still bleeding? Then pray. Talk to God. Prayer has unbelievable power, it changes you before it even changes the situation. Jesus, even when betrayed, humiliated, and crucified, prayed for those who hurt him. Do you know what that means? That forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a decision. Now, an important detail: forgiveness doesn't mean you should trust those who hurt you again. It doesn't mean you have to be friends with those who betrayed you. It simply means that you will no longer be a prisoner of pain. Those who hurt you will answer to God. His justice never fails. But you need to move forward. And here's something powerful: when you forgive, you close every gap the enemy was using to hold you back. The devil can no longer accuse you, oppress you, or use you against yourself. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it unlocks your future. Now it's up to you. Everything has been revealed. God has already shown you the signs. Now the question is, what will you do with this information? Because one thing is certain: after hearing this message, you can no longer say you didn't know. Will you continue running on autopilot, ignoring the warnings? Or will you take a stand, strengthen yourself, and let God work in your life? Because the battle is not over. The enemy is still trying to divert you, but God has already declared your victory. However, to win, you must act. Stop and think: what will you do now? Will you keep carrying the weight of the past? Will you insist on trusting the wrong people? Will you continue as if nothing is happening? Or will you rise up and claim what God has for you? The choice is yours. But here's a powerful detail: those who understand the signs prepare for what's next. And if you want to keep receiving revelations like this, don't leave without subscribing to the channel. Turn on notifications now, because what's coming is even stronger than you can imagine.